I'm now joined by climate specialist Durwood Zaelke, who joins us live from Washington, D.C. So what does this ruling actually mean for Vanuatu and the world itself?
Well, this is a terrific day for lawyers. We have courageous judges who've issued a detailed and very strong advisory opinion on the climate emergency, which they recognize as an existential threat. They combine not just the treaty law like the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Paris Agreement in Kyoto. They go further and they say, we need to add to this human rights law. We need to add customary law. And you put it together, there are strong requirements that are mandatory, that are binding on states, not just to control their own emissions, but also the emissions of the corporations under their control. So again, this lays the groundwork for subsequent litigation, which we'll see expanding even further. And it joins two other very important advisory opinions. The first one is from the Law of the Sea Convention, very strong, focused on the oceans. And then just earlier this month, the advisory opinion on the climate emergency and human rights from the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. That one is the most detailed and also the longest at 234 pages with almost 1,095 footnotes laying out in precise ways what needs to be done. So you stack these three together and you have a very strong foundation for not just subsequent litigation, but also for action at the international level, where the court has declared, in this case, the ICJ, and in the Inter-American Court, the duty to cooperate among states, recognizing that one state alone is not going to solve climate change. One state has to do everything it can at home, but then they need to cooperate as well.
Durwood, it's quite remarkable that these were students that went all the way to the most important, the biggest court in the world. How important is that? Obviously, it's their future at stake, and then this is an important voice that we're hearing, and very bold.
Yes, it is. And so students and young people are the ones whose futures are being taken away right now. And they need to use every form of activism there is, including the law. So I'm very proud as someone who's been a law professor on and off for so much of my career to see what law students can do. These are courageous law students, clever law students, and they're going to make fantastic lawyers. They will be bringing many of the cases in the future to implement the advisory opinion that they initiated. So again, a very good day for the lawyers of the world. Now we need to roll up our sleeves and get to work implementing these advisory opinions.
And Durwood, just for clarity, you mentioned that some parts of the ruling are binding on states. What exactly?
Well, the court in the ICJ opinion that we just got today says that obligations under customary international law, for example, in this case for climate, are binding on states. And they repeat this term and they say if you breach those binding requirements, then you are liable for compensation, for reparations, for making the planet and the plaintiffs whole in the future. So that starts with stopping emissions. It may mean much more because the court says there are duties here not just for mitigation, but also for adaptation. The court points out that the stricter standard that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change declared, that we should not go beyond the 1.5 Celsius barrier, which we are dangerously close to today. The court said that is the standard we should apply in this case, and we need to have states do everything within their power to stay within that temperature guard.
Sorry to interrupt, but it does sound very positive, but then what happens when you've got, of course, the US president, who is not a friend of climate change at all. And how do you think he will be seeing this ICJ climate change decision?
Okay, there are a few people in the world who won't follow this. I mean, I can think of one in Russia, and I can think of one in the United States, and there are probably many others. But the majority of the world does still recognize the importance of the rule of law, does recognize the importance of international law. And it's going to be up to the activist lawyers, the ones like these law students, to take the advisory opinion and the others that I mentioned and put them into play in contentious litigation, both in the International Court of Justice, where one state will sue another state, but also in domestic courts, including constitutional courts. There's already tremendous litigation going on for climate change, but now there's an extra set of tools from these advisory opinions. So I expect more cases will be brought, number one. Number two, more cases will be won. Three, more remedies will be provided that begin to repair the climate. So it will change the future. This is a very important moment. It is not definitive because there are those who will resist, and there's a lot of work to implement these. But nevertheless, all the courts that have been asked at the international level, the Law of the Sea Tribunal, Inter-American Human Rights Court, and now the International Court of Justice, they've all been asked, what are the responsibilities of states and corporations to address the climate emergency? And every one has come back and said, it is a mandatory obligation, and we will do our part to set the rules for lawyers to use and judges to follow in the future.
Durwood, thank you so much for explaining it all to us and breaking it down. Durwood Zaelke, live from Washington, D.C. Thank you.